Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Sunday, November 30th, 2025, coming to you live from Florida Media here in Rockville Center. An absolutely incredibly amazing show coming up for you tonight. That's right, we're back here at Florida Media. Joining me tonight is Mr. Arthur Staple. My name is Sean Cuthbert. Mr. Staple, how you doing? How was Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving was great.
Excellent.
Bunch of people at the house.
Nice.
My wife cooked up a great meal.
Lovely.
Everybody had fun.
Were you thankful?
Very much so.
Excellent. That's the main thing. All right, folks, thanks a lot for hanging out with us here at Hockey Night in New York. Before we dive into the fun stuff, going to tell you about our wonderful sponsors, starting with Knock Hockey. That's right, Black Friday sale going on right now. 20% off all Knock Hockey boards through tomorrow, through Monday, December 1st. So if you haven't picked up yours yet, go to knockhockey.com and get your Knock Hockey board today. Also proud to be sponsored by Razor, Kniff, and Lonstein Attorneys at Law, ready to fight for you. Give them a call at 212-LAW-1500 for a free consultation. And if you're hanging out with us live in the chat and you want to get your questions in for Questions Brewing, just type in Questions Brewing, followed by your question, and then after that, we'll answer those questions. So let's dive into the Islander portion of the show. Mr. Staple, what a difference a week makes. They go out on the road 6-1, everybody's feeling great, and they come home and the script kind of flips. What's going on, man?
Can't score. Can't score.
No, they can't. They can shoot.
Certainly not for lack of trying.
Yeah.
Even if we just limited talking about today, we were just talking about it before we got on the air. A couple of 2-on-1s and a breakaway in the first 7-8 minutes of the game today. Could have gone a completely different direction. Logan Thompson plays well. We've seen some goalies play well. Jeremy Swayman played well when the Bruins were here. Jordan Binnington played well when St. Louis was here. It just seems like the things that were going well, you need a little luck too when you get that many scoring chances. The luck is starting to dry up. Power play is really struggling. That was a carryover from the road trip. And just a few mistakes here and there, much like what Ilya Sorokin did, which was the eventual game winner. When you're not scoring, those things get magnified, and they've really been magnified the last few games. Yes,
they have. Let's touch on these games a little more in depth here. Let's go all the way back to Sunday, the day of the bagel before the stable, back at Bagel Boss. We had a good time there.
We did.
That's right, but the Islanders had a double shutout event there with the Seattle Kraken. Riddick had an excellent game, played very, very well. It goes to the shootout, and they come out on top.
Yeah, a rare shootout win.
Yes.
I think, what was their 7th in the last 4 years or some crazy stat like that. But that game, they really dominated from the puck drop, and obviously when you play defense well enough and you don't let the other team have the puck very much, you're going to be successful. Riddick did play well. He came up with a big save in the third period there. I think on Chandler Stevenson, that was kind of the only real scary chance that Seattle had. And the fact that they were able to come through and the frustration that we've seen in the other 4 games they've played on this homestand didn't spill over to cause them to give away a couple of points. I mean, you don't care about the second point with a team like Seattle that's in the other conference, but just for their confidence to be able to win that shootout, Bo Horvat comes through. It was big, and clearly with their inability to score goals that they picked right back up in the next couple of games. They needed those 2 points for sure. Yeah,
and it gave a little hope for the rest of the week. Well, we'll get to the rest of the week in a minute. But, they had that loss to St. Louis coming right home, right? And you're like, oh, man, is this the end of the fun times, right? So they bounce back with this win. You're feeling a little bit better. But then who comes to town but the Boston Bruins on Wednesday, who, for whatever reason, just happens to own the New York Islanders this season.
Incredible.
They don't have to see them again, which is good news. But this is another game where they go ahead of Boston, and they give it back up, and they drop the game once again.
Yeah, that to me was a little bit of attention to detail stuff. Obviously Boston didn't have a ton of chances in that game.
14.
But to get one right after the Islanders score, and such a nice goal too.
Right.
Matthew Barzal's goal made some really nice moves.
Yes.
Put them up. Crowd was into it. It was a great night before Thanksgiving crowd there, sellout crowd. And then before the crowds even died back down, they score off kind of a broken play. Alex Steeves scores, and then, they had a ton of shots and a ton of chances, but not a ton of high danger. They weren't really pressing that the way that they need to and the way that Patrick Waugh wants them to play. So I felt like that was something, the shot differential was pretty crazy, but it didn't really tell the whole story to me.
Yeah, 44-14. Steve's shorty in the third period was the dagger. That was probably the first really big, I would say, blunder by Matthew Schaefer. Gives the puck up, comes back the other way for a really nice goal for Steve's. Islanders can't equalize, and they take the L.
Yeah, I mean, we'll give the kid a break here.
Yeah, I don't think we're sending him back to juniors.
He's only playing more minutes than everybody else on the team.
Right.
And he fumbled that one away, and certainly, even with that, Fraser Minton had to make an unbelievable play to get back to Steve's there with Schaefer sliding back to kind of cut the pass off. So, unfortunate play for Schaefer, but nothing that he's going to carry over or hold on to, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I don't think he's the type of player, as we've seen, that's really going to let that get to him. He's not going to dwell on it. He's been fine. So moving on to Philadelphia, this is a team who they played them the last time. They went up by a couple of goals. They end up going into the shootout and losing. This time they go down by a few goals. You like the resiliency. You like the fact that they come back. Of course, you have the amazing goal set up by Kyle Palmieri. Obviously, he's hurt. He's out long term. You hate to see that, but it made the rounds on social media. A very heroic play, if you will. And this one goes to the shootout and kind of back to what we're used to, the Islanders losing in the shootout.
Yeah.
When in need of representation, it's not always easy to know where to turn. But whether you've been accused of a crime or need to go to court, Razor, Kniff & Lonstein, attorneys at law, have you covered with over 100 years of combined experience. With offices in Manhattan, Mineola, and Suffolk, Razor, Kniff & Lonstein is an award-winning law firm specializing in criminal defense with additional expertise in business debt settlement, trust and estates, personal injury, and more. At Razor, Kniff & Lonstein, you'll have direct access to your attorney 24/7. Because more attentive service translates to better outcomes. You deserve legal representatives with national recognition and a strong track record of delivering results. And Razor, Kniff & Lonstein are ready to fight for you. Call 212-LAW-1500 or go to razorandkniff.com to schedule a free, no-risk consultation today. That's RAISERANDKENNIFF.com. Razor, Kniff & Lonstein. We win cases because we make your problems our problems.
Hope you enjoyed the ads. Now let's get back to Hockey Night in New York.
In New York, it is time for On the Line, presented by Razor, Kniff & Lonstein, ready to fight for you. And joining us right now, NHL insider from The Athletic, Mr. Chris Johnston. Chris, pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Here, guys. What's going on?
Oh, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of Islanders hockey. Let's start by getting maybe your perspective on this New York Islanders season, this Matthew Darche-led New York Islanders so far throughout this early quarter of the NHL season.
Well, I think what I'd say is if we had had this discussion prior to opening night, I really would say the Islanders are one of the teams I wasn't sure what to make of, just because I look at them sort of caught between a couple ideas, a couple eras, obviously with a new general manager in tow. I just really wasn't sure what to expect. And I think in some ways, I think they've actually been a little more competitive than I expected them to be, certainly, on the road there. They obviously had a great run and but they're also, we've had such a strange first quarter of the season if you look league wide in terms of so many teams being clustered together, and the Islanders are right in the middle of that big grouping. So, I'd say that they probably a little better than I was expecting, but that's with the qualifier that I wasn't sure what to think of. A team that obviously has some real veteran players, but this younger group that's pushing up as well.
Chris, obviously Matthew Schaefer's been the talk of Long Island for sure with the way that he's played. I imagine he's been the talk up in Canada too. What's the feeling up there as far as he's concerned? And obviously, he's not going to the World Juniors, as Matthew Darche said, but maybe he'll go to Milan. Is that a legitimate conversation to be having about him right now?
I think it is. I really believe that. And, there's another one. If we had that discussion in September, I would have said, no, not for 2026, 2030, sure. He'll be part of the Olympic team in Canada. But, his start has been so overwhelmingly good, so impressive. so sustained, I'd say, because, you just wonder, a player that, missed so much time last year due to injury, that's playing his first pro season. I think the question, that will probably hang over his shoulder a little bit is just everyone will wonder, can he keep this up over the rigors of an entire season? And so far, I don't think you've seen, maybe some games here or there where there's an example where you're like, okay, some of this has been a lot on him, but if you're viewing the whole picture, to get to the point where he's been added to the Olympic long list, that's not something they're doing just to, just to make him right, not just to, put a little, pat on his shoulder. I think that it's a sign of how much he's jumped into the, really the talk here. And the biggest thing when I look at a season, you can point to the goals, you can point to the shots, whatever, playing over 23 minutes a night as an 18-year-old defenseman, it's not something you see anywhere. It doesn't happen too often. One of the other recent examples of when it did happen was when Drew Doughty came into the league with LA back in 2008-09. And, Drew Doughty is actually the youngest player ever selected to play for Canada at the Olympics in the 2010 games. He was 20 years old at that point. Obviously Matthew's younger than Drew, but, I can just see some parallels. Not saying their games are the exact same in terms of what they do well on the ice, but, a player that just was ahead of his time, essentially, arrived sooner than expected. And so, I very much think this start has put him in the conversation for Canada. And when you look around the league, so many injuries, there's a lot of unknowns, I think, even for any of these countries that have a lot of different choices. I think Matthew's right there for Canada. And certainly if they lose a player or two that we might be, thinking will be part of that blue line, he's probably next in line.
For sure. And Chris, just to stay on Milan here and Team Canada, Bo Horvat's another guy who started off really hot. His name kind of entered the discussion there. Is he somebody they might still look at to bring on board?
Absolutely. I do know he's among the group kind of that's, we might say, is on the outside looking in now. There's a collection of players really for Canada. A lot of the discussion among the management group is, who's going to play in the bottom six type of roles. And you don't build an Olympic team in best on best the same way we build an NHL team. But, the truth is Canada's already put 5 forwards on its roster. I mean, effectively 5 of the top 6 jobs are spoken for on that team. I mean, maybe someone like Braden Point in the Olympics drops down to the third line. But, the point is I think you need guys who kill penalties that do some of the things that I think at that level Horvat could do. In addition to just, you see how he can handle elite competition in terms of, who he goes head to head with, had a great start with the goals, as you mentioned. I mean, all signs point to a player that's really in form to start the year. And so, he's in that collection of guys and Canada just is such an embarrassment of riches, I say, at forward, especially players that can play down the middle. But, you've got Nick Suzuki and Mark Scheifele and Wyatt Johnston, if you want to go to the younger end of things, Robert Thomas in St. Louis. I mean, there's a number of guys I think are sort of in the mix for those bottom few jobs. And some of it might come down to what, youth is kind of a fundamental question for management here. I mean, we talked about Schaefer, but what do they do with Celebrini and Bedard? Do they both go? Does neither of them go? I mean, that's kind of the mix right now. But certainly I think with the way Bo has played to start the year, he's done what he would want to do in terms of just putting himself in that group that I think is being closely scrutinized and, just has to keep playing well over the next month or so before those decisions are made.
Now, Chris, it's a topic that we hear from Islander fans pretty much every week, maybe even every day, whatever direction they're going to take this season, whether it's going to be being able to compete for a playoff spot and maybe not necessarily adding, but at least trying to stay competitive versus they've got some guys, veteran guys that might be coveted on other teams trying to make Stanley Cup runs, whether it's Anders Lee, JG Pageau, maybe even a guy on D like Tony DeAngelo could be interesting as a rental. We've heard lots of rumors. We haven't seen any trades yet. Where does that stand? And obviously the glut of teams that are kind of in that middle in the East makes a huge difference about who decides when they're going to start becoming a seller or a buyer. Where do you see the Islanders and their guys kind of slotting in as the season unfolds?
Yeah, I think they're in a unique spot, probably in part with making the GM change, Art. But I think that really, if you're Matthew Darche, I mean, you just sit back and watch and let the team kind of inform some of those decisions. And, obviously he's got to consider, I think any GM is always weighing the short term with some of the longer term needs of the organization. And a lot maybe will go into the final calculus there. But, I don't think at this point in time they have to adopt one strategy or the other. And, with the East appearing to be so wide open this year, I mean, I'm with you. I don't necessarily see this team being one that we're hyping up, prior to March 6th as a big buyer, but, they may not be the seller to the degree they could be because of those players you mentioned. And so, I realize I'm sitting on the fence with the answer, but I think it's because they're sitting on the fence. It's not something that they have to decide at this point in time. And I don't know what this trade market's going to look like. It's sort of weird having an Olympics, break so close to the deadline. But generally speaking, let's face it, the most of the action in this season, there's been one trade by my count, the Lucas Reichel deal on October 25th from Chicago to Vancouver. But other than that, we've just seen no trades this year, and we may not see very many until late February, early March at the deadline. And so if you're a team like New York is poised to sit, I just think you see how the team performs on the ice, where things are at, and make those calls if it makes sense to become a bit of a seller at that time based on positioning, or if you're in the playoff spot, I can't imagine they're going to be trading away too many of the guys that put them there.
Yeah, Chris, that all makes sense. I was going to ask you exactly that, if you thought maybe it'd be pushed up a little more against the trade deadline. But I guess with that in mind, I mean, have there even been any rumblings? Have you heard of just any teams being like, maybe they're interested in one guy or interested in another, they're looking to add here, they're looking to add there? Or is it just so quiet right now because there's so many teams that at least believe that they're in it at this point, right? Like, is this something that's, maybe just going to be a crescendo up until the end, until we really see some teams start to pull away a little bit here?
Yeah, and maybe most importantly, some teams to fall back, right? I mean, I think sometimes the market's driven by the sellers, in effect. I mean, which teams really get to a point where they're ready to put up the for sale sign. We know in the last week, Vancouver's sent a note around to other GMs saying basically, come tell us how you value our players, our veteran players specifically. I think with how things have started in Calgary and Nashville, that's two other places where you might see, potentially a fair amount of selling. But the league just hasn't sorted itself out. I mean, we got to the Thanksgiving holiday, and 14 of the 16 teams at that point in time that were in the playoff picture were within 4 points of the cutoff line, meaning, there's not a lot of security there, even for most of the teams that were sitting in playoff position on that day. I know there's lots of stats attached to, how historically that's been a safe spot. Well, it's not safe when the whole league is effectively within 4 points plus or minus in the playoff spots. And so, I think as a result of that, it's just harder to make deals. You don't have teams that are willing to go all in just yet and trade away a lot of, valuable future assets. And similarly, there's just not a huge market of players that are truly available at what I'd call fair market prices.
And Chris, I'd be remiss here if I didn't appease the grudge-holding Islander fans and ask about the Leafs' misery so far this year. What do you make of this? Obviously it's the hub of the hockey media up there, so maybe sometimes we see a little bit more than we would normally. But there's some real struggles going on there. What's your view on the misery so far in Toronto?
Well, I think it's well earned. I mean, at times the media here, and I'm a member, so I'm not excluding myself, but we get a little melodramatic at times about what is or isn't a true crisis or pain point for the organization. But the truth is their start is as bad as it looks. Them being near the bottom of the Eastern Conference is earned based on how they've played. If you look at basically any of the underlying metrics, you might look to measure them by. They're right near the bottom of the league. And, there's been a small uptick. We're speaking today. They had a 7-2 win in Pittsburgh last night. So maybe that could be the start of something. But the truth is they haven't strung together any real stretch of solid play just yet. And, they're probably, as weird as it might sound, a little fortunate to have the record they do. Part of that is some of their top players on their roster are still pretty skilled. And, you have Nylander and John Tavares. I won't say his name too loudly for those listening out there. But, these guys have had a really nice start individually to the season. Lately they've gotten a little better goaltending. But the sum of the parts has not been anywhere near good enough to be a playoff team, let alone a team you might, think could do some damage when they get there. So if you're glass half full here, you're probably looking at the standings and saying, well, at least that's been the case and they haven't fallen too far behind. And there could be a universe where they get it together. But, I'm more of a sit back and wait and see if that happens, because just, they've been so porous defensively in particular that, Some of it is based on injuries, but I think, look, we can go through any team's roster right now. There's a lot of injuries everywhere. I don't use that as an excuse in this case. And, as a result, that's why you're hearing so much noise out of Toronto, is that the start has been as miserable as it looks.
Well, Chris, last one from me, kind of a wild card question here, but, looking at all this parity, especially in the East, and you're seeing all these teams bunched up together, and it just gets you thinking about, all these loser points the teams seem to be collecting. And Arthur and I were just talking about a couple of shootout losses for the Islanders and a shootout win. And I imagine this is probably what the league enjoys because the teams are in it later into the season. That seems to be the narrative there. But I look at this. Do you think that there's ever a future for the NHL where they would tinker with the point system again and maybe go to like a 3 points for a win, 2 points for a regulation win, 2 points for an overtime win, maybe 1 for an overtime or shootout loss? Do you think they like it right where it is and we're going to stay exactly where we are?
Well, I think the existing power structure likes it where it is, but there's enough people out there that think like I sense you guys are thinking about this, how I think about it. And I see a world where it changes. That's probably just after there's a change in commissioner and, there's a new vision from the top of the NHL. But certainly I think if you're the league, the reason you like this is no team is really too far out of it. Even as I mentioned, the Leafs have had what's been an objectively terrible start, and they are credibly in the playoff race. If they win 2 or 3 games in a row, they'll be right there. And that obviously does help in a lot of markets, selling tickets and keeping interest alive. But I think that we're starting to see through it. I mean, this has been extreme. I don't know what to attribute the uptick in, start this year, but I think I was seeing Vegas already has 8 loser points in the standings. I mean, we're not quite at December 1st. I mean, how is that possible? That would be a high total from some previous seasons for an entire year.
Right.
It truly is more of a coin flip game. And I think that there should be a premium place on the teams that are winning in regulation beyond just have it be a tiebreaker, which is where it is now. So, the short answer is I don't see it changing in the near future, but I can imagine a world where it would be different. I think we need a new playoff format while we're at it.
Yeah.
And my resume's available if the league wants to look at a new commissioner at some point down the line.
Well, Chris, excellent stuff. Really appreciate you rolling with us here tonight. Appreciate your time. Hope to talk to you in the future and have a great rest of your Sunday night.
All right. Same to you guys.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Take care. All right, folks, that was Chris Johnston, NHL insider for The Athletic. Excellent stuff from him, Arthur, but we're going to take a break right now, so that'll do it for On the Line, presented by Razor, Kniff, and Launstein, ready to fight for your good name when it's on the line. So, folks, thanks for hanging out with us here at Hockey Night New York. We're going to take one more break, and we'll be right back.
Knock Hockey Black Friday. That's right, we're doing 20% off of Knock Hockey if you go to knockhockey.com. That's N-O-K hockey.com. We'll take 20% off your Knock Hockey order automatically. This happens once a year. You get the deal. You buy it for your kids, or your nieces or nephews, or yourself. It is a great holiday gift. The family enjoys playing it. Go to knockhockey.com. N-O-K hockey.com for 20% off this Black Friday.
Attention all artists, storytellers, and creators of all kinds. It's time to make your content stand out above the rest. And Floored Media is the place to make your visions become a reality. Maybe you want to elevate your podcast and add some video, or turn that novel you wrote into an audiobook. Or maybe you just need the right space to produce your daily vlog. Whether you're a seasoned veteran or just starting out, Floored Media has the professional facilities, exceptional staff, and intimate atmosphere to breathe life into your creative passions at every step of the process.
Hey there, welcome back. We missed you too. Now kick up your feet and settle back in to Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, folks. We missed you all very much. Welcome back to Hockey Night in New York with Sean Cuthbert and Arthur Staple. It's time for What's on Tap, where we look ahead at the Islanders' upcoming schedule. So let's dive into that. Tuesday, December 2nd, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the now hot Tampa Bay Lightning, are coming to town for a 7 p.m. start. Great timing for the Islanders, Arthur. How's this one going to go?
I don't know. I mean, if you cared to get a little preview, you watched them play at the Garden the other day, and they were dominant. It's a team that was Braden Point didn't play, Ryan McDonough's been out, Victor Hedman's out. Those guys don't miss a beat. You know, John Cooper's been there, He's the longest tenured NHL coach. He's been there over 10 years. And, I think people get used to their level of success. They won the back-to-back cups, almost made it to the finals and tried to go for a three-peat. So I think people tend to take it for granted. But the job that he has done this season, where they started off, they were down in the basement in the entire East for a little while. Obviously, the injuries have been tough. They're definitely getting older. They've got some guys that they're plugged in here, names you never even heard of before. A lot of journeyman European-based players, and they're still playing that same style. They're just really relentless. And I feel like the way the Islanders have been playing on this homestand, they can match that. They've certainly shown that they're going to keep up their offense, and obviously they're probably going to face Andrei Vasilevsky, so just another elite goalie that they've among the many they've been facing lately. So I think it's important for them to kind of get the sloppiness out of their game that like they had in the first period plus against Philly. Didn't really have it against Washington today, but I feel like you're going to do a lot of good things and not get rewarded for it against Tampa the way that they're playing right now. So you can't get frustrated. And clearly, as we saw today, Islanders maybe did get a little frustrated when they had those chances early. Caps turned around and scored 10 seconds into their first power play.
Right.
So you can't have that sag back the way that the Islanders' frustrations maybe have been building in these first 4 home games of this homestand.
Yes, well, the travels don't get much easier because the Colorado Avalanche will be paying a visit on Thursday the 4th. I guess if you want to look at this in a positive light, they played them very well in Colorado.
They sure did.
This is a team they can hang with, so maybe they got a shot here.
Yeah, and it's not they're not getting blown out in any of these games. Today was a 1-goal game.
Yes.
St. Louis was a 1-goal game. Seattle was obviously a tie, close game. Bruins was 2-goal loss, but that was essentially a 1-goal game for quite a while.
Yes.
Philly obviously went to a shootout. So I don't think that they're getting the doors blown off where they feel like, they're down 2 goals right away. Like we've seen that in recent seasons. And I think there's going to be a lot of emotion in the building for Brock Nelson's return. He had a great game against the Canadiens the other night. His totals haven't really been great. He's been playing a lot, but I feel like he plays a very different role for that Colorado team than he used to with the Islanders. They don't need him to score. I mean, they've got Nathan McKinnon's already at 20 goals. Cale Makar is already in the top 5 in the league in scoring. It's Martin Nietzsche has been really good for them. So yeah, it's going to be a tough one, and it's going to be an emotional one. I think it's going to be emotional for Brock. He gives off a very cool, sarcastic vibe like he always has, but he's a softie inside. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how he reacts and is embraced by the fans. I would hope that it's going to be a really warm reception for him. So and maybe it'll distract him a little bit from his game.
Maybe,
you never know. So these two are tough, and I'm sure you're going to get to the weekend games, and it doesn't get any easier.
No, it doesn't. Especially at home, you got back-to-back visits from Florida teams. You got Florida coming in on Saturday, 7:00 start there. This is obviously we know who this team is, but they're struggling right now. They're out of a playoff spot, but we also know that injuries have been an issue for them, and this is a team that, despite where they might be in the standings, the Islanders certainly cannot take them lightly.
No, and they've had their struggles. We heard CJ talking about the Leaf struggles, but Florida's been very much the same. Right. Obviously missing a couple of key guys in Barkov and Tkachuk. Still managing to put up some points and not really falling too far out of it. Right. But yeah, the Islanders have had some interesting ones down there over the years, and we'll see what they can do, and maybe get some. I know you said it's a home. I think that one's down there in Florida, but
yes, it is.
That's okay.
I was going to correct myself.
Maybe they'll get some of the road magic going again after the next 2 tough ones at home.
Yes, excellent point by Arthur. These games are actually down in Florida, not at UBS Arena. And you have Tampa now. If you couldn't get enough of them earlier in the week here, coming to town here, you get them once again. And maybe that's what they need. I mean, we'll see how things go with Tampa at home and with Colorado at home. Maybe, hitting the road is going to be just what the doctor ordered when they head down to Florida. And, the good thing is like you were saying too, I mean, most of these games have been tight. Win or lose. The margin for error for Islander games this season have been extremely, extremely tight. I mean, you talk about that road trip where they did so well. 3 of them were won in overtime. Yeah. I mean, and now we're kind of seeing the other side of that, where the margin for error has gone in the other direction, and they end up giving up maybe an extra empty net goal at the end, maybe two, as we've seen, right? So I think if there's something to be optimistic about, despite the recent struggles since coming home, is that they have been hanging with just about everybody that they've been playing, right? And they're just not necessarily getting the results. And I think that speaks to just the quality level of this team this season, where they're good enough to compete, they're good enough to be in games, but you're only going to see 5-0 wins against the Rangers and the Wings so often this season, right? And I guess also to their credit, they're probably not going to get blown out too many times either. No.
And I think you're also seeing kind of the cumulative effect of, I know Palmieri made it through half of that Philly game, but today this is a guy that quietly has put together a couple of really good seasons for them. I mean, obviously when he came over in the trade, he had a great run in the playoffs in 21.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Some injury problems the next couple of years, but this is a guy who's he's earned his spot as an important core member of this team. And it's a blow when you lose a guy like that, especially in a situation like that where you think about when Anders Lee tore his ACL in that 21 season. It's just like it takes you a little while to recover from those kinds of things. And you pile it on top with Pageau still being out. You lose two of your top 9 guys. No team can really recover from that depth-wise. They brought up Mark Gatcomb. He didn't get in the game today. I'd like to see them kind of shuffle things a little bit. I feel like, and we've talked about it plenty, it was good to see Max Shabanov get a shot in the top 6. I thought he played really well today. Barzal was going good today. Maybe Max Siplikov gets to rise up the lineup a little bit. I thought that third line, with Anthony Duclair and Simon Holmstrom was really good today, and Cal Ritchie. I don't think we've seen anything from Ritchie that makes you think he can't handle that middle 6
for sure
role. So I don't know that they need to change a whole lot, but maybe sometimes you just sort of tweak things a little bit if you're Patrick Waugh and say, I get it. Guys are maybe a little unsure of themselves. The goals weren't going in before Palmieri got hurt. So, maybe this is an opportunity this week to tinker a little bit, whether it's with the power play or whether it's 5-on-5, just to put some guys in some different spots and see what you can get out of them, maybe get a little charge. Siplikov has been a guy who's provided offense before last season.
Yeah.
Maybe give him a little bit more of a run here and not worry so much about the mistakes that he's made.
Yeah, and I guess despite these losses here, the good news is this is a team, like I said it before, is that they can hang, right? Yeah. It's not a time to panic. It's not a time for any despair, right? I mean, because we talked about, look, a week ago, I stole this from, I'm stealing this from Eric Hornick because I saw it just before the show tonight, but literally a week ago today, the Islanders were 2nd overall in the Eastern Conference. Now you fast forward now, and they're literally just on the outside looking into the playoffs. And this is how this season is going to go until, I suppose, some teams start pulling away, if they do, and some teams start falling off, which they haven't yet, right? So the Islanders can right the ship very quickly here, especially if they have an inspiring week here against some very tough teams, right? Then all of a sudden they're back in the mix. So you hate to see the injuries. Maybe it's my fault because I was jinxing it every week, even busting my chops about it every show. But it's finally happened. But we've also spoken to the depth that this team has, right? And you mentioned Shabanov, you mentioned Siplikov here, and maybe this is an opportunity, already has been for Shabanov, but maybe both of these guys can kind of pick up the slack there, and maybe they're always going to miss them, but maybe they don't miss them as much as the season goes along.
I agree.
All right, well, that's going to do it for What's on Tap, and now we're going to talk about some heroics. That's right. It's time for Hero of the Week, presented by Knock Hockey. Don't forget, Black Friday sale going on right now at knockhockey.com. 20% off all Knock Hockey boards until Monday, December 1st. So, Arthur, I think we already know where this is going. We kind of alluded to it earlier in the show. Who do you got?
Well, it might be a unanimous choice here. I'm not sure.
Maybe. Perhaps.
Got to go with Kyle Palmieri.
Yes.
We didn't see a whole lot that we loved in the last week from the entire team, but I feel like it was a viral moment for a reason. Kyle Palmieri tears his ACL. He seemed to know it, too. He was hobbling to the bench, and he didn't just give up on the play. Picks a Flyers defenseman's pocket, gets the play started. Emil Heineman scores to start the comeback on Friday, and then he limps down the tunnel, never to be seen again this season. Maybe not never, but not to be seen again this season.
Right.
It's a hell of a way to go out for a season, and I think it also speaks to what kind of guy Palms is for this team. He doesn't give up. He's, like I said before, he had some frustrating times with injuries his first couple full seasons here, but he's been a real solid citizen, solid performer the last couple of years, and they are definitely going to miss him. And it was it was some kind of way to finish off this season for him.
Yeah, and he was having a good season up until this point. I thought he's served very well up with Horvat and Heineman up there. I thought that line looked really well. So it's unfortunate that he goes down, and we're just going to see where it goes. But yeah, Kyle Palmieri, easily my hero of the week as well. Just because what a man. Coming off the ice there, coming out of the corner, and the timing was just unbelievable. But picking the pocket, setting up that play, and just an excellent thing. Excellent way to go out. Hopefully the return is a little sooner than it looks like, but awful. But there you have it, folks. Your unanimous hero of the week, Mr. Kyle Palmieri, and that will do it for Hero of the Week. Presented by Knock Hockey. One more time, Black Friday sale, 20% off, knockhockey.com. All Knock Hockey boards. Check it out. Get your board today. And now we're going to take it to a place called the Snake Den.
Welcome to the Snake Den with Jake the Snake Redonis.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're moseying on over to the den known as the Snake Den with Jake the Snake Redonis. Jake, how's your Thanksgiving, buddy?
It was good. I think I'm still full. But,
is that right?
Yeah, it was good. I went down to Richmond, visited some family down there.
Nice.
It was a great Thanksgiving.
Very good, very good. So what are we doing tonight? Around the boards, in the system?
We're going to keep it around the boards.
Okay.
I thought with Brock Nelson's return this week to UBS Arena, I thought it'd be nice to talk about some former Islanders who are still active in the league.
Sure.
So
why not?
We'll start it off with Brock. I mean, you guys talked about Brock before, and the Avalanche, just an absolute powerhouse.
Yes.
With teams running away, the Avalanche look like a team that actually might be able to do that.
Yes.
They clearly are. They have just superstar talent all over, and Brock is playing a good role there. If anybody other than the Islanders is going to win the Cup, I'd like to see the Avalanche and Brock do it.
Sure, why not?
Brock is playing on the second line over there on the second power play and the penalty kill.
Okay.
So some roles, that he was doing already with the Islanders, but playing a little bit of a different game. He has 8 goals, 8 assists for 16 points in 24 games.
Okay.
He had his first scoring explosion the other night of 2 goals. I believe that was against Montreal. So good to see Brock thriving in an environment where it looks like they have a real shot to do something cool this year. I'll be there on Thursday. It's going to be a very
nice,
very good experience, seeing someone that I grew up watching come back, and
sure,
it's going to be a great reception, I'm sure, for him. So that's it on Brock.
Okay.
We'll move over to Noah Dobson here.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I remember that guy.
Yes.
Hot topic online.
Yes, definitely a hot topic. You talk about that trade, and it looks like a trade that...
The Emil Heineman trade.
The Emil Heineman trade,
Right.
yes. It looks like
Right.
a trade that both teams are benefiting from and probably will benefit from in the future. The Habs are having kind of a similar year to the Islanders, where up and down. One day they're in a playoff spot, one day they're not. Dobson is playing top pair minutes there. They have 2 pairs that run most of the minutes over there. Lane Hudson's also a right shot D-man who is a minutes muncher. But Noah Dobson is he has 3 goals, 13 assists, 16 points in 24 games this year. Only 2 points on the power play, so seems like some things might not change.
Power play, I think, is Lane Hudson's
intriguing,
so
right?
Yeah,
to get him out of that quarterback spot.
That's fair.
Yeah, Lane quarterback's power play 1. Noah gets the second one.
Okay.
So yeah, that's Noah over in Montreal. We saw a familiar face today in Anthony Bevillier.
We did.
Someone who gave us one of the best Islanders moments of all time. So
True.
It's always nice to see him. It's not nice to see his team beat our team, but
also fair.
It looks like he might have found a place where he could stay.
Yeah.
I know when the Islanders dealt him in the Horvat trade, he kind of bounced around a little bit. Is he even going to stay in the league? Is he going to be...
Yeah, it looked icy there for a little bit.
Is he going to be someone who's up in the press box other nights? But it looks like he's playing a role on that Capitals team. We saw him today. He sometimes plays on the top line. I know that they shift up their lines a decent amount, but he's having an okay year. 5 goals, 3 assists, and 8 points in 25 games. So he's playing his role. He's a 2-way forward, I think, at this point in his career.
Heard his name a lot today on the broadcast, so he's making himself, visible.
And more importantly, played the best prank of the year so far by putting the alarm clock in the visitors.
That's right.
Barzal's visitor stall at Washington after he got scratched for
Absolutely.
So
that was like a
good job, Bo. We love that kind of stuff.
That was like a Fleury level prank that he played on Barzal.
That was high level stuff.
It was nice to see that. Now I'm going to bring up a name that I know we usually don't. Like
man, Jake, I don't know,
CJ
dude.
already did it, so you can.
That's true. He eased us in.
Yeah. So John Tavares. But
Heard him.
The Leafs are having a bad year.
Hey,
in their circumstances. But the thing is,
all right.
Yeah, they're anybody could be in it in the East, but Toronto is actually second to last in the East, which is crazy to see with how much success they've had in the regular season over the past decade or so. Tavares is actually having a good year. He took a friendly deal to stay there, which he didn't do here, but 12 goals, 16 assists, 28 points in 25 games. He's second in points on the Leafs, just behind Nylander. But
this guy's 35 years old.
Exactly. It's pretty.
Leaving aside all the bad history, imagine where they'd be if he was, aging to a certain point this year, where they lost Mitch Marner and they thought they could replace him with all these kind of mid-level guys, and that clearly was a mistake. But if they didn't keep John Tavares, goodness gracious, where they'd be right now. So I apologize to Islander fans out there. I'm sorry. He is having a good year. At least
it's not your fault.
At least the Leafs suck.
Yes.
At least we have that.
They do.
Continue, Jake.
Exactly,
Sorry.
yeah. So that's what's going on with Johnny T over there.
Okay.
Those were the guys I just kind of wanted to highlight quick.
Sure,
just,
I like it.
Hey, some friendly faces around
or
the
not
league.
so friendly faces.
Yes, or not.
Exactly.
Mike Riley's still playing too. He's over in Carolina.
Yeah, he scored that. What was that? A shorty against the Islanders?
Oh, God,
he scored a goal against the Islanders. We know that.
Correct.
It wasn't shorty. It was that was in the script. Yeah,
of course,
totally in the script.
100%.
Nick Leddy's still playing. He's on San Jose. I don't think he plays every night.
Okay,
they're having a nice little bounce back season though. Mac and Celebrini, impressive.
Yeah, so a good vet presence over there.
Okay.
Always like to see Leddy still playing. Sometimes you forget that he's still playing.
Yeah.
And then,
Okay.
Devon Taves obviously playing over there with Brock, so we'll see him too on Thursday.
And we had a rare Scott LaChance reference here in the studio.
That's right.
Yes, we did. I don't know what that is.
Jay almost bought an autographed puck on Facebook Marketplace. Did you win that bid, buddy? Oh, that's too bad. All right, what are you gonna do? Is that all you got, Jake?
That's all I got. On a note, Cole Yzerman scored his first goal since returning from injury.
Okay, we
And it
like
was a
that.
big one in Madison Square Garden to beat Cornell. So big moment for him. Big moment for BU hockey. Maybe the fact that he scored a goal in MSG, place where he would like to score goals in the future.
On the road, yes.
Never know.
Wearing a white jersey.
Well, exactly.
Yes.
I'm not saying for the other team.
Sure. And Jake, was there a trivia or a poll or anything like that?
I didn't get to put one up, but
What the hell's going on here, man?
I will ask you.
I mean, what? Because it's the holiday, pal?
I'll ask it right now.
Okay. So it's just for us.
Sure, yes.
Ooh,
Play
okay.
along. Who was the first goalie to post a shutout in their Islanders debut? Was it Halak, Salo, Leonard, or Glenn Resch?
Shutout in their debut?
As an Islander.
Arthur, do you know that? You've been letting me go first, I feel like, the last couple of times. So
I'm going to go with Tommy Salo.
that's where I was going to go.
It was Robin Leonard.
Shut up.
In October of 2018, which I think was the year he wound up winning the Masters.
Well, it was only a year here, so I would think so.
Yeah,
but
you're right. Forgot about that. But it was against the Sharks. Robin
I was
Leonard.
there.
Okay.
I was there. My
But,
brain
like,
is just mush now. I can't remember.
I feel like
8 years
you
ago.
picked some good choices though. Like I could like if you had told me it was
It
Halak
was
or
definitely
Salo.
not, like I remember Halak's first game.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, that was the 14-15 season was pretty memorable. I think we were in
I don't know what
Carolina.
happened 3 weeks ago, Arthur.
I know. We all know. I get it.
Damn. Okay, what was that? A bad game for him? He got shelled.
No, they got off to a great start in Halak's first season, but they gave up a lot of goals.
Okay. All right.
But anyway, sorry.
Okay. Well, Robin Leonard.
Yes.
Fair enough.
Indeed,
All right.
should've
Well,
gotten it.
folks.
Not you. Me.
No, of course not. Well, folks, that's going to do it for the Snake Den. Jake, great job. Thank you very much, and bad job with the poll.
I'm sorry.
That's unbelievable. All right, folks. Now I'm going to tell you all about Isles Fix. That's right, Islanders Country. Get your daily fix of Isles news, highlights, and analysis by subscribing to Isles Fix, the Monday through Friday Islanders newsletter, sent directly to your inbox. Sign up for free or become a paid subscriber for added benefits at ilesfix.substack.com. And now, if you're still hanging out with us, we're taking it to Questions Brewing. That's right.
It's time for Questions Brewing. So go ahead. Ask us a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Edzo.
Yeah.
How you doing, brother?
Doing good.
That's great. How's Jay doing?
He's miserable.
He's upright at least.
He is
That's what we
upright.
got.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. He's
So-
here. He's healthy. That's important.
So let me ask you, do you guys think it's a good idea or a bad idea for the Islanders to have an all 82 away game season?
Right now, it looks like a good idea, Ed.
It's a good idea?
Yeah. The homecoming hasn't been great so far.
No, it has
But
not.
unfortunately, they do have to play at home, and we'll see how it goes this
Let's
week.
see if there are any even better ideas in the
Yes.
chat. DTMR asks, does today power play goal result and having Pulock on power play need more shots from the point?
I mean, it obviously happened because of his shot on the power play,
Right.
but I mean, we've seen him on the power play previously, and it's struggled. I'd say just as much. So I'm not sure he's the remedy, but I mean, we're at a point where it's like try what you can, and it worked.
What I like now, and I'm curious to see if they will try it more, is with Schaefer out there, with a guy who's moves around as well as he does, controls the play as much as he does. He could tee it up for Pulock. Pulock's
right.
I've always loved Ryan's game. The one thing that I've not always loved is that he needs the puck in the exact perfect spot to really clap one. Mm-hmm. And who better to set him up for that than this wonderkind who can do anything pretty much on the ice. So I'd be curious to see, and he did serve it up right to him, and then he still needed the double deflection for it to go in.
Right.
But I didn't mind the switch up there, just to give them a different look.
Of course.
Everyone can key on him. Schaefer can move around. Barzal can move around. You've still got Horvat kind of, maybe he's a little bit less, drawing a little bit less attention in the bumper there when you've got Pulock at the top. So I'm curious to see. I'm also curious to see, and I think they've tried it a little bit, if Matthew Schaefer just goes both power play units from now on. I think
Why not?
He had the fumble, obviously, in the game against Boston. But I feel like he controls so much of the play, and he can skate forever. I think that you want to have your best guys out there for as long as possible. Ovechkin, I don't know if he still does it at his age, where he used to play both units. I think the Rangers have tried it with Adam Fox. Schaefer's the best power play quarterback they got. Why not let him run?
Pretty incredible that we went from being concerned about him being overplayed in an 82-game season to now just rolling him out for the full 2 minutes.
I had my concerns, and now that was a long time ago, it feels like. So, yeah, let the kid just go out there and do whatever.
Whatever works, because we know a lot of it is not working. Ed, what else you got?
Thomas Boyle wants to know what is going on with Barzal.
What is going on with Barzal? I think he's playing well.
I think he scored a goal today.
Did he score?
Did he score a goal?
No, the other day.
The other day.
Yeah, he scored a goal.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought it looked fine.
I'm good with Barzal.
I had heard some whispers that maybe he had a maintenance day yesterday for practice, that maybe he something was going on that could keep him out for a little bit. I guess that could still possibly happen, but I think he's playing pretty well.
I agree. And no, Tom, I don't think he's going to be waived, and I also don't think they're going to deal him at the deadline.
For Tage Thomas, that is definitely not
for Tage, yeah, that was a fun conversation. Brandon Paul says, any names on the trade market interest you?
Who's on the trade market? We just kind of found out there is none right now.
Jake,
I know. I mean, I think
find out. Is there anyone?
I think that's pretty clear. I mean, I feel like this Vancouver announcement where a lot of the insiders were saying like, oh, their veterans are available, but not Quinn Hughes. And I'm looking at their list. I'm looking on Puckpedia. Like, who the hell else does that mean? Kiefer Sherwood. Like,
right.
Kiefer Sherwood's a good journeyman player who's having a great year. He's shooting over 20%. You're going to have to give up probably a second-round pick, maybe more, because nobody's trading anybody to get him right now. What does a 30-year-old middle six winger add to this Islander group? Nothing. So I don't, if you're talking about big game hunting or whatever the question was last week, maybe there's some guys, I feel like maybe this guy, Andrei Svechnikov's name kind of cropped up a little bit in the last couple of weeks. I think Elliot Friedman was mentioning that he was unhappy with his minutes, and maybe there'd be a situation if it didn't turn around that he'd be interested in moving. But he's a guy to me who, he needs to be in exactly the right spot to be motivated to be successful. And the Islanders do have some Russian pedigree. Obviously, Romanov is here. They have Sorokin, they have Varlamov. But I don't know that the Islanders are the spot for a young guy who needs a kick in the pants. It's a good group, but I don't know if he's the guy that you give up your assets for to take it over the top. So there's some names that we hear. I don't know that anybody's really out there right now. And I don't, the one team that sort of declared they're open for business in Vancouver, I don't really see anything to like there.
We really need to start seeing some separation between some of the teams.
The problem is that the separation may include the Islanders going the other way too, where suddenly you know that what we were expecting when the season started, which is Pageau probably be on the trade deadline market, maybe Anders Lee, maybe a couple of other guys. If that starts to come more and more clear, then I don't think we're worrying about who's available.
Yeah, after this week's gauntlet, you guys might be asking us who else the Islanders are going to put up for sale, but we'll see, Ed. What do you got?
Magician Matt, he says, what is the NHL's obsession with having the same teams play each other 3 times within a 3 or 4 month period before the new year? And he references the Rangers, Boston, Tampa.
I know they've got this run with Tampa where they're knocking out all 3 games of them because Tampa comes back to UBS after the Islanders are there this weekend, which is weird, but we've seen it. It's kind of fluky. And those years when they finish with the Rangers before Christmas or they don't play them for the first time until February, it sucks. I mean, it's, you want to see those games sprinkled throughout the year. Obviously, when the Islanders caught the Rangers at home the other day, it was a great time to play them. Maybe at the end of the year, it's going to be completely different. So you'd like to see them spaced out as much as possible, but I'm sure the guy that does the poor people that do the schedule,
I wouldn't want that job.
Yeah, no. I mean, they probably have as much hair left as I do after 1 year of doing that nonsense.
But maybe this opens up a slightly more interesting discussion in that don't the general managers have some... They almost have requests, right? They have some say in how the schedules go, right? So I am kind of curious is maybe sometimes this stuff isn't necessarily by design in that the Islanders like, we want Tampa 3 times in November or whatever the case may be, right? But, maybe it's just, look, you have the Olympics, right? They got to squeeze the schedule to begin with, and you have 32 general managers that are putting, these requests in the pot, right? And I mean, at the end of the day, it's got to just be luck of the draw, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some years, and I think the changing number of games that you play against certain teams, those years when Islanders play the team in the division 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
That obviously you're going to get them. You're not just going to get those squeezed into a 2 or 3 month window. Now, when you've got 4, sometimes 3, that to me is the thing that I hate the most is when you only see the Rangers 3 times, you only see the Devils 3 times. You should be able to play. Division games should be sacrosanct. Only minimum of 4. If they went back up to 5, I understand you'd have to start alternating the other conference, but come on, the Islanders come back from an exciting road trip, and the first 2 games back are St. Louis and Seattle. You're not exactly putting butts in the seats to get those two teams in there. So I feel like let's get more games against the rivals. That's who you see in the playoffs. It juices things up a little bit more. I don't know that you need to see a team from the West come in. Every team needs to come in every year.
Well, what's going to happen when there's 36 teams in the league? Because it's coming. They booked Atlanta.
100-game season.
They booked Houston.
100-game season.
Oh, my God. Same. This is not baseball. Thank God. Ed, what else you got, man?
Jack Crane, he says, does Darts try and pick up players to fill injury gaps? I'd hate to see us mortgage the future for a potential chance at a playoff berth, but don't want to burn the season either.
I think he'd hate to see that happen, too. I don't think it's going to happen. I hate to keep going back to it because this could potentially be a really fun season. It's been very fun so far. I think the things that stand out are things that are going to be part of the Islanders for a long time, whether it's Schaefer, Cal Ritchie, seeing Barzal play with a little bit more verve, Emil Heineman. These are not things that are going away after this season. So those things are really exciting and for the fan base, and you can kind of hold on to those no matter what happens this season. But no, the top priority is the same as it was when the season started. You cannot start trading away assets for short-term help. And obviously the injuries suck. As CJ pointed out, lots of teams are facing this injury situation because of the condensed schedule and whatever bad luck has been going around. So I feel like you keep those 2 things in mind. You keep the short term, I want the excitement, I want the fun. Matthew Schaefer's bringing the fun. The other guys are bringing the fun, and we'll see what happens. But you have to keep the other thought in mind, which is absolutely this season, whatever happens is gravy. And just try to enjoy it.
For sure. And we mentioned earlier that they kind of have some depth there to kind of plug holes for now anyway. So we'll see. Ed?
Jeremy says, does Anders pull a Nelson at the trade deadline for the benefit of the franchise?
I mean, I guess Brock did approve that.
Apparently
trade.
he said no thanks, but yes, I'll go there. No thanks to the contract.
He said no thanks to the Winnipeg trade, which is always smart when you say no thanks to Winnipeg.
I agree, but didn't he also turn down an offer from Lou? Isn't that how the story goes?
He did.
Okay.
He did, but I don't think that had to do with doing the Islanders a favor. That was more.
That was the consensus around the fandom.
Or is Brock Nelson doing Brock Nelson a favor by accepting or not rejecting this contract? I just don't think it was what he wanted. Anders Lee, I don't know that he's even going to get a contract offer before the season is up. It's a new era. New GM, new eyes on everybody. I think, Lou to his detriment, maybe loyal to a fault, wanted to reward guys that had rewarded him when he came in with their good play, and putting the C on Anders Lee's sweater was one of Lou's best decisions for sure.
Yeah.
But I think with Matthew Darsh in charge, I think you have to take a more wait and see approach. And Anders is a pro; he understands that. And I don't think he's going to be in a situation where they're going to offer him an extension before the end of this season. So I think the decision more will be, do they want to trade their captain? Do they commit to letting him go? There's always the fantasy that some long-serving player will get traded at the deadline and then come back and sign and say, I'm back, and you got all these assets.
I think like Keith Kachuk's the only guy to ever do
Almost,
that,
right? What you can think of one guy in the last 30 years that it happened with. Yeah. So I think if they decide they're going to move him, he's probably gone for good, and we'll see. I don't think you can make any decisions one way or the other, but I don't think it's going to necessarily be a sacrificing for the good of the franchise situation.
With you there, Arthur. Ed.
Well, if he goes, does Schaefer get to see?
Come on. Is that an Ed question?
That's an Ed question. Come on.
I think we already know who might be lined up for that.
Yeah.
With all respect to Anders Lee, of course.
Yes. Mr. Jamspan says there's a rumor about Hronek to the Islanders. What do we give up to the Canucks?
I hadn't heard that rumor, but
I thought I was under the impression that they weren't trading him. That was one of the guys that was off limits. But
I would welcome it.
I mean,
if it was there,
if they were making that trade, I don't know if I would welcome it.
No,
I don't.
Tell me why. Ain't nothing.
Good one, Sean.
I just don't know that he is what they need right now. Also, you're essentially acquiring a right shot defenseman he's a top pair guy. He plays with Kuna Hughes. Not going to be a top pair guy here. I mean, I guess they could put him with Schaefer and drop Pollock down, but I still sort of feel like they don't really need to alter their defense right now. I'm sure that they could use some short-term improvements, but that's Keishon Aitchison. That's next year's first. It's a couple other things probably.
Yeah.
That's not what you want to be doing.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry.
Womp womp.
Next from Gabe. I'm not going to read the last name. You're trying to bait me with that one.
Okay.
I got to see this after the show.
Oh, you'll see it.
Respect it. I respect it.
How do you feel about the commentary this year? Hickey has been really good, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think.
And it's not just because we had him on the show last week.
No, absolutely not. No, I mean, listen, ever since he's gone up in the booth, I've been singing the man's praises. He has been a pro, almost too much of a pro so soon, right? Just couldn't believe how naturally he fit in there. And I know we've given some flowers to Clutterbuck as well. I think he's been doing great also. These guys are just, they have the right personalities for it. They obviously have the analytical side of it. And I think they've been an excellent compliment to Brendan and to Butch as well. It's nice to see them all there together.
Yeah, no shade to Butchie at all. He's a legend, and he deserves to be. For my money, when I watch a game, I want guys that have played in the league recently, because the game has changed so much in the last 10, 12 years. And I think Clutter and Hicks definitely offer that perspective of, it's probably tough for them. They're commentating on guys that they were teammates with for a long time. Yeah. That's got to be difficult. And I just feel like the things that they can see and observe, you want to hear, you want to hear some insight that even me as someone who's covered the league for a long, long time, like there's stuff that they know from their playing days, from practice days, whatever. There's certain things that they can see that the average person can't. And
absolutely.
And the average retired hockey player, a guy who's been retired for a couple of decades, definitely can't, because the game has changed so much. So I, for one, really appreciate those two guys.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, even today, Clutterbuck in between the benches, he was commenting on what was going on the ice between the Islanders and the Caps and Tom Wilson and everything. He was like, I'm ready to go and put my skates on now and hop out there.
Well, they needed the noted goon, Thomas Hickey, who's probably the only Islander who's really taken Tom Wilson downtown
the Submariner.
a couple of times. That's right.
For sure. Ed, what else?
Another one from DTMR. He says, should Drouin drop off the top line? And power play, 3 goals ain't cutting it. Gives 7 a chance up there.
I will say that I have taken notice of over the past week or two that the man hasn't been able to finish. He's gotten a lot of chances. Yeah. Not to say that he's not valuable where he is. He's still helping the offense. He's still putting up assists, but he definitely has had struggles getting pucks past the goaltender.
Yeah, I mean, and that's been kind of the knock on him his whole career. He's a good
happened today
distributor, but not a great finisher. And Maybe that was the concern when we talk about the power play, that maybe they need somebody who's a bit more trigger happy on that off wing, that opposite wing from Barzal, and kind of, part of the top triangle with Schaefer. And, maybe Emil Heinemann is a guy who could slot in there, since we know he can rip it. And I just think in general, Drouin, he's a good complementary player. He is not a guy who creates a lot for himself. He's not an attacking player. He's really good at being part of a very good team, and I think that's why he thrived so much in Colorado and why he had some good years in Tampa. I think putting him in those spots is asking a lot, and when things start to dry up, yes, he's probably the first guy you'd think of to say, I don't know, he's a 15 to 20 goal guy. He can still be a 70-point guy because if other guys are scoring. But yeah, I think I agree with that maybe he'd be the first guy I'd swap out, and obviously with Shabanov there, I think that they did make that change, even though it didn't really affect a whole lot.
There you have it, Ed.
Never Fails Gamer says, when is it time to bench Tony and give Warren a shot?
I don't know if they're going to put Warren on his off wing, on his offside rather, in any meaningful way. Kid's already, that's a struggle to kind of become an NHL player as a lefty on the left side. Putting him on the other side. Obviously, Schaefer can play the other side because he can pretty much do anything he wants out there.
Yes.
But I thought, other than the terrible giveaway against Philly, I think Tony's been pretty good.
Yes, that's right.
Playing with Pelech. I think that pairing works for me. And also, I kind of found today when Ryan Leonard was starting to rough Schaefer up, and Tom Wilson was talking and doing what Tom Wilson does, which is aggravate every person on Long Island constantly.
Yes.
Tony was really the only one that was kind of running
he was going at him.
He can be a little rat out there, and and they don't have a lot of that in the lineup. You want to see him, you want to see, you feel like when you're watching Leonard go after Schaefer, you're like, could somebody just go out there and cross-check this guy in the back? I mean, that's not a sentiment you really want to feel. But strong. I think everybody thought it, and Tony DeAngelo is the one that's going to do it. So I don't know that you can sacrifice him from the lineup, and I feel like he still gives you enough in the other areas of the game, probably more than Boquist. If there was a lefty that went down, I think you'd like to see Marshall Warren. I think the option right now, and from what I understand, Isaiah George has been playing his offside in Bridgeport quite a bit to kind of bolster that weak depth on the right side. So maybe he's a guy who comes up if things really need a change to play a little bit on the right side. But I think for now, Tony's probably the best option they have.
Yeah, and a good point on DeAngelo, and you have guys out like Palmieri and Pageau who are guys that, not that they're roughing anybody up, but they do get under guys' skin, right? Yeah. They're spark plugs out there. So you have those missing and them missing, and maybe DeAngelo is a guy who you need out there to kind of provide that somewhere, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but Magician Matt was talking about the Tony DeAngelo experiment. So I'm guessing like when that honeymoon phase is over. So I guess you just don't.
I think they're just not in a place where they can comfortably move him out of the lineup right now. I think that's where we're at.
All right. Thomas Boyle.
Last one.
Okay.
Thomas, you get the last one.
He said, when is Wah going to wake up, start benching players that are playing like trash?
Well, I don't.
Missing 3 regulars?
And I don't.
Come on, Tom.
Listen, not to say that everybody on the squad is playing lights out every night, but I'm not even sure who's playing trash. Yes, we've spoken about a couple of guys with some giveaways this past week, but I don't think any of those guys are getting benched at the moment.
No.
And listen, ebbs and flows of the season. They're not going to be perfect every game here. So every now and then they're gonna make plays you're not gonna love, but I don't know if there's anybody on the current squad that's really in deserving of any long-term benching.
No, and I feel like if there was a forward, especially I'm sure we're talking forwards, if there was a young guy in Bridgeport that was really chomping at the bit and kind of knocking on the door and needed to come up, I feel like they brought up Gatcombe, who had a really nice season last year. Maybe he'll get in and Kyle McLean comes out. Maybe a guy like Matthew Highmore, who's been around the NHL a long time. Journeyman, a guy with a real high motor, doesn't always finish, which I guess we have a problem with that now with everybody else.
Yes.
He'd fit right in. But I feel like you want to give a little burst of energy in that bottom 6. But they don't have, and I know Matthew Maggio's having a good year down at Bridgeport, but is he a guy who's going to really pull the offense together? There's just not, if Cal Ritchie, when he got sent down, you knew he was coming back because he looked like an NHL player in training camp. Matthew Schaefer is obviously Matthew Schaefer. Marshall Warren showed well Isaiah George showed well last year, but there's no other person that you can point to and say, we need to get this guy in the lineup because he's going to really juice the offense. So I think for now, with the injuries, you kind of got to ride with what you got.
Yeah, and I guess just to put a ball on all this, before the aliens invaded the show earlier on, I was going to ask if you had any observations on Mitchell coming into the lineup.
I thought he was fine. You know, I think he's a capable guy, and maybe in the future he could be a third pair guy. You know, I don't think he did anything too much either way.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I think that's what you want out of a young defenseman like that. Someone who can just be steady and handle the big moments and not get too high or too low. So, yeah, thought he was pretty good.
Okay, we'll see if we see more from him.
Before we wrap up, though.
Yes.
Arthur, did you have an anthem this week?
I do.
Mr. Ed.
You do. You do
Talking
have
to
an
Mr.
anthem.
Ed.
Is it Bad by Michael Jackson, or what is it?
Well played.
Just taking a guess.
No. It's a little different than what I've been bringing to the table so far. It's Jimmy Cliff, reggae and ska legend who recently passed away. An incredible pioneer in his area of music, which we don't get too many pioneers in music these days. So my favorite track of his is called The Harder They Come. And the goals have been harder to come by for the Islanders. The wins have been harder to come by.
Yeah.
And the song is really about trying to just, take what's yours in life. And I feel like the Islanders need to start digging a little deeper, trying to take what's theirs. They had a great start. They had that great road trip. And now they're sort of like slowly giving it all back. And as we talked about, this is a real gauntlet this week. And the last time we mentioned that they had a gauntlet was on the road. And look what they did. So let's see it again.
Let's see it again. That was deep, Arthur.
And I
love it.
Jimmy Cliff, one of the greats.
Absolutely. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That'll do it for Questions Bruin. That'll do it for Arthur's Anthem, and that will do it for this week's edition of Hockey Night in New York. Yes, roll the tune. Want to send a big thanks to Chris Johnston, NHL insider over at The Athletic, for an excellent interview tonight. And of course, want to send a huge thanks to our sponsors, starting with Knock Hockey. One more time, Black Friday sale, 20% off all Knock Hockey boards at knockhockey.com until Monday, December 1st. Get yours before the sale is over. And of course, a huge thanks to Razor, Kniff, and Launstein, attorneys at law, ready to fight for you. Check them out at razorandkniff.com. That is RAISERANDKENNIFF.com for a free consultation. Mr. Arthur Staple, where can we find you if we want to hear more of your content? Such.
On Twitter at Stape NHL, Tri-State Hockey Podcast over at Daily Faceoff. Been a good time so far.
Nice.
And just here when we don't have technical difficulties.
What technical difficulties, Arthur? No idea what you're talking about. You can follow myself at Shawnee Hockey on Twitter, Blue Sky. You can follow the show on all social media platforms at Hockey Night NY. Mr. Jake the Snake Radonis, where can we find you?
You can find me on X at Jake Radonis, RADONIS.
There you have it. And folks, once again, please rate, review, and subscribe. However, do not rate this week's episode because it never happened. Just kidding. Love you guys. Thank you for sticking with us. Really appreciate you hanging out with us here. We'll be back next week. For Arthur, for Jake, for Ed, for Jay, I've been Sean Cuthbert. We've been Hockey Night in New York, and we will see you next time.